Good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is Martin Wong with you, coming you live for another breakfast show. I'm your host, Martin Wong. Now, in this morning, the last day of May, definitely, trading idea with SMARTRobie finds the market very interesting situation. We do have our full lockdown, which has been announced over last weekend, and the situation is already been felt at the ground right now. You can see the last understanding that I seen from the chart, there was a gap down, and we will definitely catch up on the impact of the MCO full lockdown 3.0. So just join me in our breakfast show and we will cover them. Of course, not before this morning in here, of course, our usual what we have is our iPad giveaway, and continue to submit your best stock trade idea and get the iPad giveaway. That's right, at least something to cheer you in this morning, despite the kind of market that we are seeing in here. Not that good, but something which is very positive we have seen is the green Pentagon, which I'm going to show you next in here. All right, today is Monday, and definitely on Monday it's our beginners level. So beginners level, we're talking about trading plan and Pentagon guided in here, and also looking at last week, the idea that we have. Of course, right now let's look at the morning headlines roundup that we have for you. Now this morning, let's go on to our SMARTRobie chat in here, and I think many of you would have noticed with the opening market, our market early on was down 21 points. Right now it's down to 1577. Again, the 1560 level, that's the support level that we need to have, and the market can't just break this. If we break this, we're going to go to not that kind of very positive in here. The market did attempt last Thursday to go higher, and we're going to explain this in shortly and what's going to be happening in here. But definitely from here this morning, in our most active in here, we got Jetson continue to be up another 34%, and they have been up. Systech, MPay, HB Global up 25% in here. Top gainers are the tech and pharma, continue to move up 7.7%. And Mr. DIY 4% in here. Nestle, Server Dynamics, right, as we said last Friday, Server Dynamics has an issue in here. We will explore the news in here, and so Heng Yuan and Dutch Lady in here. But let's take a look at the Pentagon chart that we have right now. You could see, let me just switch to a wider chart here. All right, so you can see from in here, we have a 1 month, and the market continued. You can see on the right hand side, the market continued to fall, but it did have a support at 1560. We did have that Pentagon guidance here. Now the question you're going to be asking me, Martin, with the MCO 3.0 that we see today, is this still a good time to trade? Now all in all is that we will trade on base what we see in the market. Now remember last year in March 2020, all right, when the market continued to fall, there was so much kind of bad news. Again and again, I'll always tell people, right, you got to trade based on what you see, not trade based on what you feel, because market can be very emotional, and generally the psychology, if you're a beginner, that is even going to impact you more. But as you progress to be a better, what we call, remember, Agenda 2021, train trader and train investor, that's very much part of the what our show and our program trying to make you become a train trader and train investor. You got to trade based on what the statistic is, based on what you see. So right now we got a green Pentagon in here. Definitely you should take a position. But if you are not comfortable in here, and then what you do, you just want to back test. That is why we always talk about, the whole point of agenda is having a very disciplined program to follow. And if you are disciplined enough, no doubt, like what we've seen in our Pentagon simulation result that we have in 2020, as well as the result that we have this year, that is actually quite respectable. We have a 13% return from January to May compared to a -3%, and we will talk about that shortly. And right now we have the green Pentagon in here. Only time will tell, going forward the next 2 weeks, if you do get out from this MCO 3.0, or you call it the phase 1, or some call it MCO 4.0. Let me know what you think by typing up in the comment there. All right, let's move on to our next story. Now the next story is still going to be really on the main focus is the lockdown. Now the economists in here from one of the local banks here, they talk about the MCO 1.0 that we had last year, started March, and it actually went on for 47 days, 7 weeks. Now remember, now how many of you think this lockdown phase 1 that we have is going to be 2 weeks? That we will get out from this from January 1, from June 2nd to June, I believe 14 days will be June 16, right? 2 weeks. All right. Do you think we're going to get out in 2 weeks? Unlikely. I think the last time the case was even much smaller, and this time the case hit 9,000 for first time record in there, and it came back about just 7,000 on Sunday yesterday. I'm not sure how's that amount going to be, but if you can see, 2.8 million jobs were lost at that time. And you know, of course, you don't want to hear this kind of bad news. Is that, does it impact you? Of course, right now, those of you who likely tomorrow will be staying at home, then you have more time to look at the market. Definitely something you want to consider that you have last year to continue your learning too, during the MCO 1.0, now it's MCO 3.0, to begin your learning and understanding the market. Now, all in all, the economic stimulus packages last year did roll up to about 17 billion. Now, it's still been coming out right now. I think eventually this next coming 1 week or 2 weeks, our Prime Minister will roll up some sort of stimulus plan together with the Finance Minister in here. But more importantly, to put the hopes high for a lot of Malaysians, including you and me, is the vaccine rollout. And it seems that that is the only way, as we have seen many other countries like the UK, EU, as well as US, who have done a very successful vaccine rollout. The economy has recovered, and we will also talk about the US market here. Now let's move on to our next story, which is on the Starbase. Talk about because of the impact of the MCO and likelihood number of jobs losses. Hopefully we just don't slip to another recession, which I don't think we will. The market KLCI is still going to be range bound around 1580 to 1600 in here. The barometer is 9,000, as I said before, for the cases. As long as 9,000 been hit, we don't go beyond that. I think should be fine. All right. Now, also very important, I want to share with you is I've always been talking about the composition. Now, the impact to our KLCI composite index, which we look at it every day. So from this, a very good report by one of the economists, and talks about as of 30th of April 2021, you can see the biggest composition, 32%. All right, 32% is banking stock. As long as the banking stock is good, no interest rate, although right now there are little small talks talking about interest rate may be cut because of the MCO 3.0 full lockdown in here, but it yet to be confirmed. So next you can see there are 6 of them, big component, which represent 32% is the banks. Healthcare is 13.9%. Now this is important. Now this morning, if you check out the healthcare, Top Glove, Hata, they are holding up. The rest of the market all gap down. That's right. I think some of the stocks have gapped down. Even the stock trade idea that we talk about has also gapped down too. Then we have the food and beverages, which is 11.5%. That is going to take a hit. Number 4, telco. Yes, there's going to probably utility, not much. Industrial goods and services, depending. Chemicals, very small. Energy, very small. Basic, and travel and leisure is very small. So if you look from here, the big component, right, are the banking stocks and the healthcare stock, which does, if you look into that, about 14 and 33%, that is almost 47%. As long as the healthcare will push up, the bank will hold on, then you will see the CI holding on. Now, that is important. If you think the market is going to break lower, right, definitely it's not. It all depends on which sector of the thing. So I hope this little side story will clarify how well our KLCI will really hold, and I don't think at this point the market will break lower based on what you see here, right? I hope you like this story in here. Let's move on to our next story. Now, our next story is going to be on Serber Dynamic. Now, this morning, I think Serber Dynamic has a big drop, which we saw almost gap down 30%, right? And you can see, let's put on the live stock prices here, right? Okay, that's right, 30% in here. Now, if you think very carefully, what does this story remind you of? 1MDB. That's right. Now, usually the case is they talk about here, well, if the auditor, which is the messenger, that tells you that your company has some issue and you don't like that messenger, what do? That's actually what happened to 1MDB. They switch also from auditor 1 to auditor 2, auditor 2 to auditor 3, and eventually that whole thing just sort of, fold by itself. Of course, the spokesperson for Serber Dynamic did come out and clarify do look at the fundamental. But what has really talked about this is the sales transaction and trade receivable involving 3.5 billion in here, and that's already questionable in here. And the fact that the spokesperson who come out and talk about changing the auditor, that is a big alarm, and that's no that is a reason why this thing is getting out of hand. That's why we saw this 30% drop in here. But of course, I did talk about this story last Friday about the smart money even getting out much earlier. Of course, there are other companies like K Power. Let's look at K Power. How is it reacting this morning to this news being some sort of a tied up? Of course, they are trying to stay away. Let's put up the stock price here, and it is still down 12%. My goodness, right? And because it is the impact that the parent company, I do believe Sabre Dynamics, a parent company in here, doing some sort of related transaction that will impact, and that's why it's no surprise what you see on the side of on my side of the screen is down 12% in here. For those of you who have Sabre Dynamics, the question you're always going to ask me, do you want to cut loss or not? At least at this point, the way I see it is cut half. But I think because of the limit down, there may not be any chance for you to sell your stocks inside here. I do hope if Sabre Dynamics, being what it is, don't fall into the same hands or fall into the same outcome that we've seen some company in the past who change auditor and become what it is. All right, so just take note of this story that we have in here. Not that nice news to begin it. Now, of course, a little bit positive news is the another company called PA Resources, been usually in the aluminium sectors in here. Right now, of course, aluminium is one of the main story. You know why? Because of pressed metal, Southern Steel, that has done very well. So this company, PA Resources, a slightly smaller company. Let's take a look at the what we have here. Let's look at PA Resources. And we'll look at the fundamentals first. It hasn't really lost money, so the story talk about this company are coming back. And if you look at the PE on just top of me here, let me just switch to a wider chart. It is 28 times compared to PE. Very little dividend, and ROE is not too bad, which is still better than the sector. So you may see why it's not rated, because the PE is much more higher than the return of equity. That tells you it's a bit pricey. That's right, it is. So if you look at that, Dong Hai, Fajar Group have one of the big stakes. So you pretty know that Fajar Group is connected to here, right? Being a construction here. Now the story talks about the Nasdaq company, listed Nasdaq company that has given First Solar. We all heard about First Solar, FSLR, which is actually a mainland China company. There are a couple of these in here. Has given an 800 million contract on this one in here. Right now, the renewable energy sector hasn't done very well in US. Right, it went up very high and since then has retreated in here. Somehow the renewable energy has gone into a backseat compared to what we see in the oil and gas because of the market recovery. But one little thing which is brought up by Cathy Wood over the weekend about the renewable energy, which is actually the solar, to drive cryptocurrency, because the earlier comment that we seen 2 weeks ago by Elon Musk, they did say that look, cryptocurrency is a very dirty currency because it relies on a lot of the fossil fuel, and that's what we see right now. Cryptocurrency been taking a hit, hitting below 40,000 US in here. That's spells to be no good. Of course, bad news continue to plague it, but very important, we want to see more bad news coming up. You see how is the price reaction to it, because cryptocurrency, like in Bitcoin, works very well on price and volume. Let's move on to our next story here. All right, so our next story is going to go straight to US. Now do take note, tonight US market will be closed for the Memorial Day in here. Generally when we have holiday, US market tends to be a bit quiet, but we are at the verge now at this point. Those of you who have the US SmartRobie, maybe you can just try it out here. You have to go down to SmartRobie and go down to the S&P 500 here, and we'll look at the chart too, switching to the left hand side here, and you can see in here very nicely done. Switching to a wider chart on this side of the screen here, it is blue trend zone and it is still green Pentagon. That compares to Malaysia. So one thing great about SmartRobie, we're able to switch on one market. So the only thing for you is to start to think, look, methodology the same, Charts the same. Will you able to switch out? One of the things that you need to do is probably have a cross-border account, which we'll talk about in a later session in here. But definitely it is retesting the S&P 500 around the 4,250. If it does have a nice line change due to last Friday infrastructure talks, which Joe Biden is talking about in here, but it's important that the market at this point need to break out before the US Congress agreed to it, because now they are trying to reach a bipartisan agreement between the Republican and the Democrat on the I believe it's a 7 trillion infrastructure project in here. Okay, so we're going to go back to the KLCI here and going back to Robie. That's right. Now let's look on to our next part of our presentation. Is the past leaderboard for Pentagon trade idea continue to be upheld. We have UMW, Asiata tends to do very well when the market is trending up in here. Ta'an are being considerable winner in here, and we are still able to pick winners exactly to demonstrate the power of Pentagon guided in here. Of course, the lesson learned that we did from last week. Okay, last week we did pick the BAT, which has continued to move up in here, but since then a little bit of pullback. But let's take a look at the market for what it is right now. First is BAT, okay, which is a tobacco stock being defensive. The stock of interest, we talked about it, was on the 24th, which is this day. It did hit higher, but it had a correction, and of course this morning the market actually gaps down due to the MCO in here. But you think very deeply, if the market, people still need to smoke anyway, right? It is the case, it is, but of course most case things generally really gap down first. Bad news being absorbed. If the market can go higher, it's going to move up in here. So what we have seen BAT, I think the trend is still intact. Let's look at MISC. Okay, MIC also, right? We remember we picked this on the 17th of May. It did hit up high here. Okay, high here, up to, if you just pull this, right, to about 3%, and then you have a pullback. Of course, right now this market, everything's pulled back today. All right, everything's pulled back due to the MCO. Still okay. The chart still looks pretty okay from what we've seen so far. So those what we have, and we do see usually when we have climatic volume. Okay, when we have climatic volume, then we would get some sort of a pullback, as usually we see profit taking from the smart money tool. So do take note when you ever see high volume in there, right? Don't go in. Of course, those of you who have come for our masterclass, and guess what? Our next intake will be June in 2 weeks time. And those of you who have registered, congratulations for yourself. Be prepared for a great educational weekend. And guess what? By the time you finish with this, the market allows you to able to trade. As we can see, I do think the lockdown period may be a bit longer than just 2 weeks in here. Allows you to learn more about it. And those of you who are thinking about this, not having something to do over the lockdown, if they do have extension, maybe you want to check out our June intake. Right? Something for you to consider in here. All right, let's move on to what we have for you. The trade idea for this week is the 31st of May. That's right, Pentagon guided list. We have two stocks here, Kerjaya and Padini. All right, let's look at the first one. Remember I've talked about earlier, Padini. All right, and you can see the market actually gapped down. It was a nice long accumulation. Then we have that breakout here. I think this is also due to the earnings. The market is coming back in here, so it is not ready to move higher. Next one is Kerjaya. Kerjaya prospect, very nicely done. Also have a nice spring. Try to break out, actually, to be frank with you. Also on another earnings, the market since then pull back. It's actually moved up due to the green Pentagon reacting better on earnings. And again, of course, going forward with the MCO 3.0. So the question is, will the next 2 weeks, maybe with an extension, impact the earning? And that's what the stocks today do. What it does, it actually gaps down to compensate for the changes in likelihood the earnings, which is coming out in a couple of months time frame. All right, so this is the stocks in here. Now let's take a look at our trading plan, which I'm going to talk about in here. Let's switch to Padini. As usual, we normally do this. All right, to tell you, those of you who, okay, so switch here and we bring up Padini trading plan. All right, let's look at the weekly chart. Switch on to the weekly chart. Okay, right now All right, you can see weekly chart, it actually turned green Pentagon for the weekly basis from 9th of November. Okay, let's take a look. Weekly, okay, weekly, what we call blue bullish trend zone since 9 November 2020. All right, and it did had hit an all high at 336, hit all high at 336, and now pull back to 281. Okay, 281 here, support, 281 support here. So let's switch to a daily chart and take a look at it. Okay, we had the, okay, so we had green Pentagon, which is this date here, 27 May. Okay, all right, but market gap down on 31st May 21, reacting to MCO 3.0 phase 1. Okay, phase 1, which is the full lockdown that we've seen. All right, so this is what we have. So important price level, so if we do enter, this is the level we will enter, which is right now 281. Okay, 281, and stop loss will be here, just 269. Okay, stop loss 269. Okay, important price level in here, 296. Okay, 296 was the line change high. Okay, so it need to overcome. Now do take note, right? Treat this as an exercise, right? At this point, I think the market is likely to hold its level, right? Maybe just trend a bit down, right? You don't need to enter it if you don't like what you see. Again, going back to the emotion, but you're falling from a pure academic standpoint, understanding the market, you might just want to do this straight in your head. And those of you who are more experienced, then you want to consider whether this is probable to do it or not. If you're longer term, let's look at Padini. It does has the fundamental appeal to it. All right, so let's look at the profit target here. Profit target, you can go back to maybe the old high around here, which is 335. Okay, profit target 335. All right, and how long you want to hold it for? Okay, we can always go to the trading plan for Padini. Okay, Padini. And Padini trading plan is that's right, Padini trading plan holding period is 2 weeks to 2 months. Okay, just hold it for 2 months. Right now it's 31st, well, 1st of June, July, then will be August. Okay, so it will be 1st of August. Okay, assuming today we take it. All right, so that is our very simple trading plan that we have. Okay, our simple trading plan that we have. And let's save this as next week we will come back and review this. All right, so you have that one. You can, so you can see how I actually. Let's move on to our next part of our story. Is really the Pentagon guide, which I again have been emphasizing all this year around. Now last year on 2020, based on the back test that we had made 106%. Of course, last year 2020 was a very good year. No doubt this year wasn't a great year, but we did pick some good winners, and we have a win rate of 67%, a 13.3% return on the real money of 31,000 now, compared to a 3% down for KLCI from January to May. So the question I'm going to fall back to, are you making money now? If not, why not? And compared to what Pentagon Guider can do, that's a 13.3% return by following it. So that's something, a food for consideration if you do follow this. All right, let's move on to the sign of strength, sign of weakness. Now, in terms of conceptual map, a lot of the trades that you've seen, even Padini and Kerjaya, very similar to this, is usually the 1 or 2 bars after the line change that you see in the market reacts, and that's what actually happened today, right? Of course, you want to understand more, go over to our QR code in here and look at the sign, strength, sign, and weakness, especially those of you who are first time there. All right, now of course, just a reminder, our June intake in 2 weeks time we'll be here, and those of you who are considering for our masterclass, do register for it, and those of you who have signed up early on, do come back and re-attend this, as we have some slight syllabus update for you too. That's one of the real benefit being a masterclass member in here. And of course on Wednesday we have our regular topic, all right, looking at the small account trading and investing, what to invest in the stock market for 10,000 ringgit or lower. So we're looking at different strategy. Those of you who have a very small account in here, of course 10,000 is not much you can do with a big amount, but let's do and come and join me and share this information, right? Which is sorry, the date is not 12th of May, which is actually the 3rd of June, right? 3rd of June, which I actually scheduled on the 12th of May, but somehow we did change the date. So take note, it is 3rd of June, which is this Wednesday here. All right, and right now, all right, we're going to move on to the stock chart, and of course the our trade VSA as well as our smart money top fans. We welcome you and thank you for your support. And if you have not given us a review, please go over to Google Play Store and Apple Play Store and give us a review if you think we're doing a good job in here, so we'll continue always to get our services, our product up to a standard that is satisfying and good user experience in here. All right, so let's take a look at what kind of stocks you'd like me to take a look at. Some of you may have penciled in there, so I'm just going to be looking at it right now. Okay, and those of you who have none, all right, there was a question, voucher code get from where? Voucher code, you just type in duty. All right, just go to here, you can see here there, voucher. Once you get in here, all right, you enter your voucher code number. That's it. You got that, right? Duit Raya. All right, cancel that and then redeem it. That's all you need to do. All right, so Duit Raya is your code. All right, those of you who are asking for it. Okay, all right, let's look at the next one. All right, there's none here, and let's see whether there is any stocks that you want me to look at. All right, okay, Axiata. Okay, someone did ask me about Axiata, which is actually a Pentagon stock this morning. Axiata Group. Okay, the question is, Axiata planning to buy a stock? Do you want to follow the trading line? Now, yeah, if you want to buy the Axiata following the trading line, it is a buy. As I said before, following the fixed rules, when the green Pentagon is green, this is definitely a do. But do take note of the ATR stop loss in here and the period of holding it, of course, right? And this is something that we usually do a lot in our masterclass, the follow-up to the Pentagon guider. If you are a masterclass member, we do this on a regular basis to get you updated in here. All right, that's a good one here. Let's take a look at the next one. LKL being a healthcare, I think, yeah, it's you can see where this market is still pulling back a lot of upthrust. It needs to overcome the sign of weakness in here. All right, sign of weakness. So it does make a lot of sense in here. These stocks, as far as I do know, if you notice, this kind of stock like LKL, usually they are not healthy. They have one push up, line change, distribute, push up, distribute, push up, distribute. So it's important that you're able to hold on to wait for the next line change. So chart reading is important to think of this one. All right, this kind of stock can congest for a longer time in here. All right, but if you look at it, the other types of chart like Top Glove, right? So if you look at Top Glove, that is more significantly very similar. You can see one bar pullback, then it distributed. So there's a lot of sellers waiting to sell out there, and it also happened the same for the other other stocks inside. You can see push up, pull back in here, very difficult actually. Right now, even with the market that we've seen right now, is still down 2%, right? So it's holding up at a nice base support in, and the COVID cases, in Malaysia has gotten worse. So why isn't Hatta going higher, right? It's just that there is no more institutional support. As I said before, everything else in Malaysia right now is all retail based, and retail right now is staying out because MCO 3.0. So going forward the next 2 weeks when we have the lockdown, will we have more volume? All right, definitely right now people are more worried about the jobs than the market. What do you think? All right, so there's Doreen here want me to look at Tarvin. Okay, let's look at Tarvin here. All right, Tarvin is pretty decent. I can say before, you still got that resistance, a nice pullback in here, your ATR stop loss. Again, now always go back to what I've said before. As long as the blue trend zone with the green Pentagon, follow it. Okay, follow the trading plan. That's what we talk about, what we call fixed rule trading. Fixed rule that you don't need to think about. Follow the trading plan. The question is, do you do enough back tests to understand it? Right? That's always been the case. If you do enough back tests, on hindsight, then you felt that, look, all I gotta do is just follow the Pentagon in here and trust it. All right. But again, trust is very, very subjective. Some people say it's okay as long as I don't have 2 trade losses in a row. So please do what we always talk about in our workshop when you come for the Pentagon guided trading, the fixed rules trading simulation, which is done by Coach Ari. Follow the rules and also follow the psychology and the key things that we talk about in there. I think that's also important as well. And don't forget also to submit your best stock trade idea in here, and follow and do submit, and you're able to grab the get the grab voucher too. All right, and have a chance to win the lovely iPad here. All right, let's take a look at the Kenny want to look at SOP, which is the Sarawak Oil Plantation here. All right, this one very easy to explain. Once you break below the ATR stop loss, time to jump out already. All right, again, going back to your plan. If your plan is trading, this is not a good one. Okay, if your plan is what we call a longer term, then you want to see whether the dividend is good enough and something you want to look at it. All right, so most people is that you need to have a plan. Right? A plan is about whether you want to fix on trading. If you're trading, you can follow the portfolio fixed rule trading, which we talk about, very similar to the turtle trading, that will get you that 13.3%. So far we have showcased to you from January to May 13.3% with a win rate of 67% in here. All right, so this is let's take a look at the next stock, CIMB. Okay, CIMB continue to be very good. Last Friday has a nice line change, of course, to this morning. We all know what it is. Still a good one in here. The banks actually are holding up. Remember, early on we talked about the 32% in here. If the bank will hold up, our CI will also hold up too. Okay, let's take a look at any more stock. Okay, we got revenue here. Someone on me, don't look at revenue. Revenue group. Okay, revenue group, once it's broken below the ATR stop loss. Again, no ATR stop loss if you are beginner. Right, you haven't attended any of our masterclass, follow SMARTRobie. Wait for the green Pentagon. But if you have attended our masterclass and you know how to trade, right, then you can trade based on the chart setup. You can ignore the green Pentagon and the ATR stop because you know how to read chart. Am I right? So it's always good to have some sort of an agenda in your learning, and to consider our June intake. All right. So we got T1 here, which was mentioned a lot in one of the okay, T1 last Friday, I think they have a good talk about in here. Earnings is coming, no doubt. It's still in a nice uptrend here, pulsated by red Pentagon and green Pentagon in here, but it did move up in a nice trend. Overall, look at the ATR stop loss. Okay, no red Pentagon yet, so coast is still clear, still kind of uptrend there. All right, okay, let's look at Axiata. All right, so that's the stock chart that what some of you guys want me to review it. That I think that's great. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing this video in your timeline here. And I hope I will be the presence or the voice of the stock market for you in this next 2 weeks or maybe longer during the MCO 3.0 phase 1 lockdown in here. I hope that be that guiding light for you and able to talk of more trade ideas, how to do it. And for those of you who are ready, June, all right, 14, if I'm not mistaken, is our master class, and we'll be doing it over a period of about 5 days, and definitely there's many things to talk about during that time, where myself and my coaches are able to spend more time with you. Something for you to consider. All right, let's move on to the and closing it here. And definitely do subscribe to our YouTube. If you have not done so, do check this in now. Our YouTube channel in here, and don't forget, this coming Saturday we'll be doing our master class course preview, right, on a Saturday in here. And those of you who are interested to come for it, definitely you want to join us on Facebook for our preview, and you want to find out more information in here and for that. So as such, thank you for coming in here, and do share our Telegram chat room with the with your colleague and friends so they can benefit from it, and that's the key outcome for it. Thank you for coming in here, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye bye.